So Shavuot is one of the lesser known of the 7 biblical festivals, even though it is one of the Shalosh Regalim, 3 pilgrimage festivals, Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot. It was at these special holidays, Chagim, that the ancient Israelites would travel up to Jerusalem to celebrate and bring their extra offerings to the temple, the first fruits of the land, in gratitude to the Creator for all his provision. Now, according to our sages, it's Hazman Matan Toratenu. It's the time of the giving of the Torah, the 10 Commandments at Mount Sinai. Now, the 3 festivals, Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot, represent a union, a love relationship between the Creator and his people, Israel. This love union begins with Pesach, which depicts the engagement of Israel to the Creator. This is when, according to tradition, we read Shear Hashirim, the Song of Songs. It's a story of pure love. Now, Shavuot is the wedding day. The tablets of the 10 Commandments are like the ketubah, which was given to Israel. Now, for those who don't know, a ketubah is a marriage contract which describes what the groom is obligated to provide for his bride, both financially and with conjugal responsibility. The entire community of Israel acknowledged on that day. We just heard it. They said, all that you say we will do and we will listen, meaning we will obey. This is a covenant agreement where both parties, the Borei Olam and Israel, both agreed to keep their promises to each other. The people of Israel and the Jewish people scattered around the world today. Are we keeping our word? On Shavuot, again, as tradition, we read the book of Ruth, which speaks of the engagement of Ruth to Boaz. Here, Boaz rescued his bride and took her under his protective wing. Ruth was not a native Israelite. She was a Moabite, a sworn enemy of Israel. Boaz represents Israel, but Ruth has the function of including the Gentiles into his family. Ruth chose to leave her people, like Abram, and became part of Israel. She was blessed by being the great-great-grandmother of King David. We heard the beautiful words that Ruth expressed. Your people shall be my people, your God, my God. This speaks of the universality of this message. We end with the development of the marriage at Sukkot, which is the last of the 3 festivals. And although it's a time of great rejoicing, it's the only festival, according to Zechariah, that will remain after the final battle. It specifically states that all nations will celebrate Sukkot. The marriage between God and his people now would include all the nations. All the nations. Exodus chapter 19 that we read before says, Moses went up to God, and the Lord called him from the mountain, saying, Thus shall you say to the house of Jacob, and tell the people of Israel. To whom is Moses speaking? To the house of Jacob or to the people of Israel? What's the difference? Are these 2 ways of saying the same thing? Of course, our sages have many opinions about it, but if we examine, according to the universality of the message, it was for the descendants through the blood of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and it would now include all those added to our people Israel. That's clear when we look at Joshua, who was the son of Nun from the tribe of Ephraim, and Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, a Kenizzite, who became a prince of the tribe of Judah. Together, these were the only 2 men of that first generation who left Egypt to enter the promised land. Their hearts burned for the Holy Land. Does ours? When we think of Israel today, does it matter to us what is happening in the land? Do we weep when they weep? Do we rejoice when they rejoice? Shavuot is such an important festival, yet so few people, even within Judaism, celebrate it. It's so difficult for us in the diaspora to truly understand that the festivals are so connected to the land, and we long to one day return. How can Shavuot be explained outside the confines of religion? and within the theme of our rabbis' paradigm shift of our belief systems. Shavuot is the culmination of Pesach, after which we begin to count the 40th, 49th to the 50th day, which is today, when we are to hold a great celebration. Imagine being in Israel when the entire country will be unified and celebrating together. In our community here, it's a true Simchat Torah, rejoicing of the giving of the Torah by the hand of God to Moses at Mount Sinai, even if it's only a rabbinic idea. Imagine that day over 3,000 years ago. It says in Exodus 19, there was thunder and lightning and a thick cloud on the mountain, and the sound of the shofar blasted exceedingly loud, and all the people in the camp trembled. The creator of the universe descended to this plane to give mankind his principles by which all humanity could truly live together in peace and harmony. This was a unique happening in all human history, the greatest kumsitz of all time. At no other time was there ever any appearance by God to an entire people who stood trembling at the sound of his voice. These commandments were not given exclusively for the Jewish people. Rather, we were formed as a nation to be emissaries, to bring these principles to the rest of the world. This is what we're celebrating at Shavuot. It's a time of great thanksgiving for the harvest, that's true, for the blessings that God pours out upon the world. He rains on the just and the unjust. Sadly, this country, like so many around the world, has removed any mention of the Ten Commandments from our schools, from our public meeting places, from our government offices, from our institutions, and from our courtrooms. The result is chaos. Crime is on the rise, corruption, disease, and death are widespread. It's time to bring back the Ten Commandments into our society for the benefit of all peoples. Let's learn from Shavuot that by giving us his Torah, the Creator set down the foundations for our lives. And by being obedient to his principles, we are set on the road to freedom, to justice, to honor, and to live healthy and fulfilled lives. God wants us to know that every single day is a new day in which we can choose to return to him. That's what teshuvah is, and to begin our lives again, no matter how young or how old we are. As our rabbi said, our God is a God of beginning again. Hag Shavuot